This is Dr. Paul Thomlinson from Compass Health Network, and I'm doing a continuing series on what we can learn from science, the behavioral sciences and evidence-based psychology in particular, to help us deal with the COVID-19 crisis with grace and humanity. This one is called COVID versus Cupid. I know that's too cute by half, but I couldn't help it. How to help your relationship survive and thrive during this crisis. Our lives are obviously under tremendous strain due to the COVID crisis, and our relationships can feel that strain most acutely. I've done a bunch of radio interviews on the psychological impact of the pandemic, and one of the most common questions is, how can we make sure our intimate relationships survive this? I would say that's setting the bar too low. So let's add, how can we use this time to strengthen our relationships so they come out even better on the other side? As I've said before, whenever I have hard questions about things like this, I have the luxury of access to my longtime friend and favorite family psychologist, Dr. Joe Hulgus, who teaches at Missouri State University and maintains a private practice. We were able to do an interview from our respective homes, and I have edited the audio here for brevity. So Joe, thanks again for doing this. And let's start with the most obvious question, or one that's on the minds of a lot of folks right now. What do you see as the most likely impact of the stress and strain from the pandemic on our intimate relationships?
Thanks again for having me on your podcast. I think the most likely impact of the close quarters and shift in routine and so forth is to create just an increased level of tension for most folks. Unfortunately, that tension oftentimes then comes out on our intimate partners. And so what we can do is realize, first of all, that there's sort of extra pressure on us, and that if we're a little grouchy or a little snippy, to not take it personally. It's not really about us. It is about the stress and strain of the circumstances. There are a variety of things that we can do to help with that. Giving someone the benefit of the doubt, doing what one couples researcher, John Gottman, calls a positive sentiment override, which is where you think, oh, this is an aberration. This is not who these folks usually are. I know they're good. And so you sort of discount or minimize whatever, boneheaded thing your partner's done, knowing that they really love you and they have your best interests at heart.
I love that. Very helpful indeed, Joe. And I've always loved Gottman's work. Positive sentiment override that you mentioned, PSO. That can be so helpful. I think it's the cry of every human heart in a love relationship or any relationship to have their partner believe the best of them. That's the nature of positive sentiment override. Oh my goodness, that's not like him at all. Allowing hopefully the large bank account of positive sentiment that we've built up to override any irksome behaviors or qualities that we're encountering in our partner or they in us. So I love that. Also makes me think about one of Gottman's most popular, important findings about who stays together, which couples stay together. It's not couples that have conflict per se, but couples who learn how to and are committed to resolving conflicts. So on to my next question, Joe. You know I'm an optimist by disposition and by learning. But am I being too optimistic when I say that our relationships might even be strengthened during this time of being cooped up and all the stress and strain that swirls around us?
I don't think you're being too optimistic. I actually do believe that there's an opportunity here for folks in relationships. When stress happens, it pushes on us and it invites us to try something new, to shift our dance steps some. One of the things that can build intimacy in a relationship is facing a conflict and working through it. And so the opportunity that's here is to do something with conflict in a different way. Most folks don't like conflict. They try to avoid it. They minimize it. But avoidance is one strategy that is a limited strategy and not one that will necessarily build intimacy. In fact, if you avoid enough, you can actually damage the intimacy in your relationship. So stepping up and being able to address things directly and, convey to your partner that you're there, that you're engaged, and that you're going to stay on the playing field can be a really powerful way to build your relationship. So taking time to sort of relax and breathe and focus on what it is that you really want. You know, if your goal is to feel right, then probably nobody's going to win, right? The old adage is that for someone to win in a relational fight, everybody has to win. And so what you do is work towards how to have everybody feel heard, everybody be acknowledged. And, you know, sometimes if it's an issue of some importance, that you come to a compromise. But my experience is that there's lots of stuff in life, but people are pretty competent at resolving the content of issues. It's really the emotions involved, the feelings that drive the issue, that are the important part and have lots of other ramifications. So attending to those becomes paramount.
Gosh, there's so much good stuff in that answer, Joe. Stress invites us to try something new. That's so powerful. Such a shift in perspective for many who often see stress as bad and something to be avoided rather than embraced as a teacher. What you said also makes me think about the opportunity we have with each other. And there's a Marcel Proust quote that I've always loved. Mystery is not about traveling to new places, but about looking with new eyes. So this is a chance for us to see each other with new eyes, rising to challenges, being kind, showing the good stuff we're made of. I also love the way you put the message to our partners in times of stress. When everything feels so uncertain, you know, to say, I'm a sure thing. I'm here. I'm engaged. I'm going to stay on the playing field with you. And also the notion that if you need to be right, that's the wrong goal. Somebody's got to lose in that scenario. You gave us so much in that answer, but I'm going to be greedy and ask for more. So do you have any Hulgusisms for us on this? What recommendations would you make for making sure that COVID doesn't beat up Cupid, so to speak? What else can we do to make sure our relationships survive and thrive?
As I'm sure that you're well aware, and most of your listeners are probably aware, there is no magic bullet when it comes to relationships. You know, you can go into bookstores or online and see a bazillion different self-help books on improving your relationship. And each one of them have a little nugget for you, but there's no silver bullet that works for everybody and solves everything. So, but there are some guidelines that you can do that will help yourself out if you can do them. And they're not always easy to do. So the first one is slow down. There's no reason to go fast, to try to, race through some issue. Slow down. The second one that seems simplistic but is very helpful is just breathe. When you slow down and breathe, you reduce your own anxiety, your own tension, and you're more able to hear what somebody else has to say. And that hearing becomes important, right? So, again, as was said before, seek to listen more than to speak, because accurate listening becomes really important in trying to connect with your partner. And just remember why you're in the relationship, right? You and your partner are really on the same side. Otherwise, you wouldn't be together. And so if you can help to keep that in mind, to know that even though it may feel like you're at odds at the moment, that you really are on the same side and you want some of the same stuff, then I think that'll be very helpful in helping to move you towards something that can actually enhance your relationship. Because everybody is stuck inside, this can be a time where you can use some other self-help things. I don't remember the author's name, but there's a very popular book out there on love languages, which is really how we convey love and how we feel love. Now, again, it's not a panacea, but it's one of those things that's a helpful thing to know about yourself and your partner. So if you're stuck inside, utilize that book, which I think you can even get online and in electronic format, and work through it and look to learn about yourself and your partner so that you can actually benefit. And again, there's a wide variety of self-help things you can do. Look around and see what's best. I wish everyone luck in this. It's a daunting circumstance, but as they say, we can get through it together.
Again, so much good stuff there, and thank you for that, Joe. You mentioned there's no magic bullet, but there are, as you say, guidelines that we can observe and that are going to be helpful to observe. Slow the heck down. Just breathe. Like you said, that can sound really facile and whatever, cliche, but how important is it to just learn how to follow your breath? Reducing your own tension and so forth, and thereby having a better chance of being heard when you speak. And I also, by the way, like that book. It's by Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. By the way, mine is a toss-up between physical touch and words of affirmation, in case you were wondering. The other 3 that Chapman identifies are acts of service, receiving gifts, and quality time. And finally, Joe, you mentioned how important it is to recognize that you and your partner are on the same side. It's so easy to lose sight of that when we're in the midst of stress and strain. But indeed, let's all remember that we're on the same side. We're all in this together, and yes, we will get through it together.